Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking Justice League Incarnate. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're doing Justice League Incarnate, written by Joshua Williamson, Dennis Culver, and art by Andre Bresson and Brandon Peterson, amongst a whole lot of others. This is the follow-up to Infinite Frontier, an ultimately skippable book. This is all stuff that's spinning out of basically Dark Knight's death metal, and then I read Infinite Frontier, and if you watch that video, it's kind of long and rambling because that's what that book is, and it kind of has no point. Everything that happens in that book is really explained a lot better in this book, but there is some setup with, why is Flashpoint Batman here in Infinite Frontier that maybe you want to read, maybe you don't. Honestly, I think you could get away from it. Just know he's appearing, and they don't really know why he exists. This is a hardcover. They only produced a hardcover of this. So if you're looking for a trade paperback softcover of Justice League Incarnate, you're not going to find it. I guess they didn't sell enough. Like a couple of years ago, DC was doing this thing where they would do a hardcover of certain books, and then a year later would maybe do a softcover. So that's what they did with Dark Knight's Death Metal, with Dark Crisis, with Infinite Frontier. Like, there's hardcovers of those out there. They're these big event books, but they thought maybe this would sell, and it didn't. And honestly, it's disappointing because this is a fucking great story. Honestly, I had so much fun rereading this. I remember I picked these up digitally in Comixology because I was thinking they were, something cool, something different at the time. Bendis was on Justice League. It wasn't really working for me. And I was like, let me try something else. And Joshua Williamson, I had loved his stuff on Flash. I think his Flash run is phenomenal. I read all of Birthright, and then him and Andre Bresson ended Birthright, and then Andre Bresson came to do some of the art chores on this book. I think he probably does a good 50% of all the art in this book. And I loved Andre Bresson, so I was like, all right, I'm in for this. And this is way more fun, honestly, than it should be. And I don't really understand why it's so much more focused than Infinite Frontier. Maybe it's because it's just focused on this one team, as opposed to Infinite Frontiers trying to tell like 6 different stories at once and only continue one story, as opposed to this is one story all the way through. It takes that main thrust of Infinite Frontier with Darkseid and trying to seize power and stuff like that, and then follows that through like a lightning bolt, literally, through the DC multiverse, and you get a whole lot of interesting characters here. Some you've never met, and honestly, you don't need to know any of them. And that's the great part about it. The main thing that they do establish is who President Superman is. Mary Marvel, is she really in it? No. Thunder, is she really in it? No. Aquawoman, no. It's mainly the Flash, which this is a new Flash, Avery, which came out of Williamson's Flash run. And she's kind of like she came out of this, the only one that remained her powers remained after the Speedstorm at the beginning of the Flash Rebirth saga, right? Flashpoint Batman and Captain Carrot are kind of the main characters here. And then you meet the other main character here, Dr. Multiverse, and she comes from one of these Earths. So I'm going to take the hardcover off, and you can look at this. It's beautiful Gary Frank covers on these hardback and for every issue. Again, I really love, this is such a change from Infinite Frontier, which was kind of a slog to read, and this one I could not put down. It is great. Some of the other artists in here, like I talked about, Andre Bresson, Tom Derenick, Brandon Peterson, Kyle Hotz, Paul Pelletier, Norm Ratman, Ariel Olivetti, getting some inkers in here, Todd Knock, Mikhail Yannon, Chris Burnham, Mike Norton, Jesus Marino, just a plethora of artists. Like, it's almost like there's 3 artists per issue. And at first it seems like they're trying to have a new artist introduce a new Earth anytime they visit it. So Brandon Peterson gets the kind of Marvel Earth. We start on Cal Hotz, that's Earth 8. Cal Hotz gets this weird dark universe, Earth 13. But as time goes on in each issue, that artist moves away, and you might get like Tom Derenick stepping in or Andre Bresson stepping in. Although it seems like Andre Bresson's doing a lot of the main bleed stuff when that comes on. And that's this guy right here. Yep, there's another Batman Who Laughs, or Batwoman Who Laughs, actually. And then you get some other stuff here with Darkseid. But So what is the plot of this book, Brent? I mean, you said you loved it way more than Infinite Frontier, but what is the plot? Well, it's basically Darkseid saying, I'm going to crack open the multiverse and go find wherever Flash went. So the main idea of Justice League Incarnate, which they were Justice Incarnate in Infinite Frontier, now they're Justice League Incarnate, and they kind of, Captain Carrot makes fun of it in the first issue that they changed their name so suddenly, and I think it's mainly because Justice League, any Justice League book sells more than just Justice, so that's why they changed the name of the book and the team. So it's kind of funny that they make fun of it here in like the very first issue. But they're off on a trip to find Barry Allen, and that's why they get Avery, because they need speed powers to track where Barry Allen went in the multiverse from the events of Infinite Frontier. That's really all you need to know. You don't find him until the very end, obviously. But the other main thing is they discover Darkseid is out here trying to get this crack of the multiverse, which is moving around the multiverse somehow. He's trying to capture that power and give him the ultimate power. And Darkseid is on his whole I'm the god of all evil kick. He's more powerful than everybody. And this really establishes him as the one ultimate threat of the DCU. And then we get to issue 4. And this is kind of where everything opens up here at the end of issue 3, where we see the Great Darkness is coming, and that's kind of a big deal for older DC fanatics because a book I've never read, The Great Darkness Saga from the Legion of Superheroes back in the 70s, written by Paul, he was the publisher for DC for a long time. Oh gosh, he's on all those talking head videos. I'm sorry, it'll come to me later. But anyway, he wrote that story, and that's kind of where Darkseid was with the Legion. And if you read DC All In, you'll know that that's kind of a big deal now because the Legion's Darkseid's army on this alternate Earth. So all this is kind of feeding into the new absolute DC universe also. So it's not a bad idea to check in with Justice League Incarnate and Dark Crisis right now if you're reading current DC Comics. But this 4th issue, when I remember reading it on my iPad, and I was like, why is no one talking about this? This makes every DC event make sense, which you never thought would happen. But Joshua Williamson and Dennis Culver somehow found a way to do it. They explain how all these events are linked, or they found a way to make them all linked through their Great Darkness thing, which is culminating in the big event, which is, I'm going to read that book next, right? But it's so cool. They start all the way back from Infinite Crisis, and then obviously that links up into Infinite Crisis and Zero Hour and Magog with the Kingdom and Multiversity and 52. All those villains from there, they're saying they're all fingers of the great empty hand, which is representative of this great darkness. And it's just a battle between the darkness and the light, which kind of boils everything down. But then you have Darkseid trying to interject here because he realizes that if the Great Darkness wins, all life dies, including him. So now Darkseid's kind of a hero, and so he's trying to hijack that power, and that's where Final Crisis comes in. And this is the thing, like, I've read Final Crisis numerous times, less than 5. I've never understood it. But I did understand it when they put it in context with all these other events and not made it make sense because this is written after the fact, but linked things to current events in this book that I was like, oh, okay, I see how that could work. Where typical Morrison Final Crisis for me was just too dense or too out of this world. Like, I've not done enough drugs to understand what the hell Morrison was doing in that book. And then they link that Final Crisis to the New 52, to Doomsday Clock, where they're talking about Dr. Manhattan stealing time, and that's how the New 52 universe got created from the heroes. And all that's explained in the DC Rebirth 80-page giant. And then we're going into the events of Multiversity, where Nick Zuotan gets corrupted, and you have to fight the Gentry. And then that's then linked to the events of Metal and Death Metal, which are the metal wars of these crises. And now, at the end of this book, we're leaping right into Dark Crisis, and this book even ends with a checklist. So that's pretty much how quickly this book came out in the year. Like, they put this book out with a checklist saying, like, hey, don't miss Justice League Road to Dark Crisis #1, which I think ended up being Justice League 75 of that series, and then all the different tie-ins and things like that. But it's the last 2 issues here with 4 and 5 are also a battle with Darkseid and the Great Darkness, who now has this lightning bolt, which was reminiscent of Flash's symbol, which is the rift in the multiverse, the crack in the multiverse, and what's past it. And you have, the Justice League Incarnate now teaming up with Darkseid, who they've been chasing for a good, 3 issues here, and realizing that Darkseid in the end does have to win in order to stop the Great Darkness. And does he? Obviously not, because we have Dark Crisis, but just the way they flip everything on its head towards the end of the series and link all these crises together. If you're a DC fan, there's brilliance in here in Justice League Incarnate. And I don't think enough people read it, honestly. Like, people missed this book. And it's a phenomenal book. So if you love DC, if you love all the events and you like them, or you like how events can feed into each other, this is a great book. Just that issue #4 specifically, but also in terms of how everything feeds into the next book, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's just really, really cool. And I don't think anybody read this. So 2 thumbs way up for Justice League Incarnate. Again, you don't have to know all these heroes. They explain them enough. If you really want to get to know them, I guess you should go and pick up the Infinite Frontier Secret Files issue or read that one from here, and maybe the last Infinite Frontier issue, and then you can jump into this. Don't read all this if you don't want to. But honestly, I think you can go in cold. If you've read Multiversity, certainly, you can go in pretty cold in Justice League Incarnate. But man, this is a great book. And hopefully with time, people will pick it up and realize how awesome it is. But I'm going to give it my 2 thumbs up way here. So Josh Williamson, Dennis Culver, everybody slept on this book. I didn't from the very beginning, and I'm glad I reread it, because now I'm going to read Dark Crisis and enjoy that once more. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you thought of this book down below in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.